So the ghost with the most is back. The juice is loose. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. It may get into the spoilers later on. I'm still kind of undecided because I have so many thoughts that I have about this movie. So I'll try to keep the spoiler-free stuff pretty brief, considering most of you are probably just going to go see this movie anyway. So I'll give you the quick pitch on what I think of this movie, spoiler free, and then we'll get into the good stuff. So let me give you a little bit of a rundown on what I think of the first movie. I love it. I think it's one of my favorite movies that I get to watch over and over and over again. The pacing, the characters, the artwork, all of it is just really fun for me. And I realize that that is a little dated for some people. Even if you or I think that the first movie is one of the more original, unique movies that we ever saw, it may be a little dated for some of the people watching it today. I love the film. I really enjoyed it. And I think we gave it like a 9 out of 10 on our podcast. You know, like it's just one of those comfort movies that we like to watch all the time. And we just really get a kick out of it. Everybody has a different feeling about franchises now. And when you get into movies that have been around for like 20 some years, you're going to run into a lot of different people feeling a lot of different ways about the old movie, the new movie, and everything in between. Obviously, we're dealing with the first one and then this one now, and maybe even a third one because Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. So what is it all about? It's in the future, obviously, and after a loss of a loved one in the Deetz family, they have 3 generations of the Deetz family that goes back to the house where it all began. Lydia, who's still haunted by Beetlejuice in the background, has her life turned upside down when her teenage daughter Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, accidentally opens a portal to the afterlife, unleashing Beetlejuice. I did enjoy this movie. I was not expecting it to be what it was. I expected it to be very flawed. There are a lot of choices that they made in this movie that are bad, and there are also some choices in this movie that are badass. Overall, I had a more positive experience. Are there flaws in this movie? Oh yeah, there's a lot of flaws in this movie, and I'll probably go over some of them. Also, I kind of gotta let you know what my expectations were going in. I knew that this movie was never going to be like the first movie. And when I say like it, like even compared to it. The best I was hoping for is that we would get some good Beetlejuice moments, we would have some good lore in the afterlife, and that it didn't pander too much. And that's really all I was hoping for, that it connect in some weird way, even if it's not exactly the same. And I personally think I got what I wanted out of it, especially for a sequel. And I think if you are a fan of Beetlejuice, and not a too big a fan of Beetlejuice, meaning that you're going to pick apart this movie because there's plenty to pick apart, then you should have a pretty good time, in my opinion. I enjoyed watching this in the theater. I did laugh quite a bit. Was there a lot of moments in the film that you are like, why did they do this? Yes. Was there a lot of mistakes and things maybe that it shouldn't have been there? Probably, yeah. But I just can't bring myself to hate the damn thing. Even if it is a sequel, it's never going to be as good as the first one, in my opinion. I look at it like this. Let's say you're a fan of a band that was 30 years ago, that was really in their heyday, like Beetlejuice was. And fast forward to the future, that band, Beetlejuice, is a little bit older. They're not as agile on the stage. You got some new band members that are trying a little extra hard, but don't exactly fit in yet. So you're kind of getting acclimated to them while you're watching the show. They got some new songs that they're playing, and some of them are pretty good. Jokes, you know. Some of the old jokes, they don't try to play too much. They've added some new things to them to kind of give it a different feel, but they're still reminiscent of the old days. It's just an older band. You're gonna enjoy the show anyway, right? You're gonna support your favorite band. But I'm a little biased, and when I watch this movie, I'm going to rewatch it with the first movie. And some of the new stuff that they added in this film, along with all of the beautiful Afterlife stuff. This movie felt like there was more Afterlife stuff than I've ever seen in a Beetlejuice movie, which I loved. I loved that lore. It's so cool. But some of the characters I really didn't like, and some of the characters I did. A lot of the legacy characters were good. There's some new characters that are vapid and kind of don't fit. One in particular I'll talk about in a little bit here that I just was not fond of. A particular joke that they turned into a really long segment that just wasn't that funny. At the very end, they brought it back. There's a lot of weird choices in the music, and there's a lot of things that I can pick apart about this movie, but somewhere in this heart of hearts, I still enjoyed it. But there's a lot of weight being shifted around. You know, Beetlejuice, Lydia, Delia are all kind of holding the weight here for the whole movie. Ultimately, like I said, you're still trying to get acclimated to him for a long part in the beginning of the movie. So it takes a while to get started. You can't compare it to the other movie, but it does feel like it belongs in the universe. It's a flawed movie that I still really had a shit ton of fun with. Say what you will about me. That mileage may vary with other people. Some people are saying this is the next, son of Satan that has been born into the world and is out to feed on nothing but the fans of Beetlejuice, piece by piece deteriorating it until it is nothing. I'm not that guy. Don't let it discourage you though. If you don't expect that much from the movie, you'll probably get a better experience overall. If you do, you're probably gonna be very upset. But that's just my thoughts. That's just my opinion. Now I'm gonna get into some of the spoiler thoughts.
This is a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Die.
So let me preface my spoilers with this. Remember, I enjoyed this movie. I like it because I like Beetlejuice. I wanted to be back in that world. I'm a fan. And I wanted to enjoy this movie just as much as I did the first one, but it's kind of unreasonable to think that, in my opinion. So I just kind of wanted to have a good time, and I wasn't putting so much into this movie that it had to be perfect. Just know, overall, we all have our own opinions. I'm just putting mine out there and what I think about it because I am a fan of this stuff, okay? I think people should go out and see it and enjoy it just like I did. But there are some flaws, and I gotta point them out. There are some things in this movie that really just did not work. And I gotta say, when they didn't work, they really didn't work. But when it did work, I was cracking my ass up a lot. There was a couple of times I thought it was really funny, genius kind of stuff. But there's just some things that are throughout the film that it's like they could have done a better job of it, even if I'm that forgiving. I had a lot of issues with the Rory character who is in this movie, who is Lydia's boyfriend / manager for her show. Her show, I thought, was a wonderful addition. Like, where would a clairvoyant or someone who spoke to the dead go after this? And it seems like a very logical choice that she had her own TV show, almost like Bill Murray in part 2 of the Ghostbusters, where he's on stage kind of taking the piss out of it. And she's kind of made it a mundane world, even though she's highly damaged from everything that happened in Beetlejuice. I thought that was cool, but Rory's character, played by Justin Theroux, it just, either he was not written right or he just did not feel right, because there was moments in the film where he was supposed to be funny, or I think they were trying to elicit some sort of laugh from some of the stuff that he did. It just was not landing, and honestly, it felt awkward. Keep in mind, I understand that this character is supposed to be the guy that you don't like, because we know what happens to him by the end of the movie. He felt like he was playing a crappier version of a Will Forte. If they would have put Will Forte in that role, in Roy's role, I think this movie would have been infinitely better. In fact, a lot of the characters, a lot of the newer characters didn't really work that well. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that in the first movie, they had a lot of characters that were kind of reacting to a lot of the crazy antics that were happening because they're normal people, not in the afterlife. So then what you get because of that is that you're putting all of that weight on Rory's character and also on Jenna Ortega's, because they're the two normies, right? Taking away some of the comedic moments, even though there are some really funny things in the movie that I liked. Obviously, there's some really graphic, gory bits that I really loved and had a blast with. The gut scene, the baby scene, I loved everything with the baby in it. Like, that was just fantastic. In fact, the baby scene was actually kind of like a nod to Peter Jackson. Hell, they even had nods to Bava with Beetlejuice's backstory. To give you an idea, some of this is written by Alfred Goh and Miles Millar. Hope I'm saying the name right. And also another character by Seth Grahame-Smith, who is kind of the third writer on the whole thing. Alfred and Miles have done other work in other films like Smallville, Spider-Man 2, I Am Number 4, and the Wednesday TV series. My girlfriend said that she felt like Lydia's daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, is a little bit too much of a Wednesday character in the movie. And I think in some ways, yeah, she kind of was, but she's also different in a different way. It just wasn't amazing. I still think she did good in the film. One character that I was really excited to see was Willem Dafoe, and I think he did a good job, but I don't think he did Willem Dafoe is in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice good. Like, I feel like he should have been really good. I liked his character being the whole I used to be a fucking actor kind of thing. He played that pretty well for the most part, but I just think that he could have had some more like bigger parts that stand out. And there are a couple of moments where he is fun. Monica Bellucci's character felt very just put in there. I like how she dispatches people into pancakes. That was pretty cool. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. She was okay. She's a good villain, but I felt like she didn't say anything, or she at least didn't have any memorable lines that I remember. And they sort of just throw you into that whole quick past of Beetlejuice and how he came about and how she became about, and they don't really explain it that well. They just kind of go through it really quick, and it also wasn't that fantastic of a background for either of them, to be quite honest. This is Beetlejuice and his first wife after all, right? Just, it felt like her story more than his, and it's because we're trying to get the backstory on her, while his backstory should have been really interesting as well. Another character who I enjoyed was Catherine O'Hara. I thought she did a pretty decent job, although the start of the film is a little rough on her, and it doesn't really get its landing until a little bit later on in the movie. It took a long time, and I think once they go into the afterlife, I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff in the afterlife. There was some characters with the Bob guy who I thought was really good. I thought that was kind of funny and interesting, seeing him working and everything like that. The boyfriend thing, the boyfriend angle with Jenna Ortega was kind of a surprise. I'm glad that they didn't handle it worse than they did, because it really could have gone for that let's keep him all the way to the fucking end, and they didn't do that, and I think that was actually appreciated. It kind of like they just like took him out, and boy was it awesome, by the way. What a great line and scene that was for his end. And I liked Michael Keaton, you know, as Beetlejuice in this again. Is he exactly like he was in the first one? No, he's a different version almost, but it still really works, and I think he does a fantastic job, although the energy is not as much. He's a little more laid back, a little older, if you will, even though it is the afterlife and he is not supposed to age. But that's kind of, they wrote themselves into a corner with that, so you just have to forgive some things. They do try to go on some old hits in a way, but it's very different and it doesn't feel anywhere near the same. So it's not as like high level pandering as I've seen in other movies as of lately. I'm thankful for that. But I did like seeing everything in the afterlife. In fact, it felt like I was watching almost like Beetlejuice, the animated series, and Lydia and him were going on adventures, and I could watch hours of that. I feel like that would have been a lot of fun, because there's just so much stuff going on in the background in the afterlife, and how they sort of try to make it into this like business or sort of legalese way of like how the afterlife works. The song thing was kind of weird to me. They picked some songs that I don't really think made a whole lot of sense. A couple did, but like it was almost like they wanted to kind of turn this into a musical, which I had no issue with, but they sort of like karaoke it, like mouth karaoke, where he's not actually singing, and there's the parts where everybody was like singing, and I shit you not, like there was a part during that marriage scene where I thought Lydia was telling him to stop singing the song, like her mouth was so out of sync with the words to the song. And what a weird choice for a song. Like I get it, but it's not exactly like Deo, you know? Like that's a memorable song that was in the movie that nobody thought was gonna work, and it did. And I think they tried to fit a song in this movie to make it work like that did, but expected too much from it instead of just kind of going with their gut. But, you know, overall, I can't hate the movie. I enjoyed it. I thought the world just looked fantastic, the way that they did all the practical effects and the way they did it the original way. You know, for the most part, the main people that I cared about were pretty good in the movie, and I'm just being a little extra picky here to explain that it is flawed, but I still enjoyed it. And I know that some of you are probably really mad at me because I'm pointing these things out. Just know that it comes from a place of, I love these movies, you know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed my time here. There was one thing in the movie that just brought me to cringe town, and it brought it back at the very end, which was that train situation. I was like, oh my God. What were they thinking? I'm just saying that there are things about it that people are not going to like, and they're totally not wrong. To have it go as well as it did in what I saw was kind of a feat in itself. So maybe it's something that'll grow on me because, you know, it kind of reminds me of like Bill and Ted, you know, part 2. Like, that movie was so bad to a lot of people, but for a lot of us younger kids, it kind of grew on us. And maybe this is one of those movies that kids will have seen the sequel and think is better than the first one. But I still hope to see a third one. You know, you got to do Beetlejuice, 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 because you just do. I hope I shared a little extra with you this time to kind of give you my thoughts on this. I really genuinely enjoyed the film though, and so hopefully you made it to the end and didn't just like curse me out in the comments or whatever. I don't know. I wish that it could have been a little bit better, but to expect more is just kind of, I'm just happy enough that I enjoyed the movie for what it is, and I'm glad to be back in that world. Could it have been better? Sure. But I still had a good time. What do you guys think? I would love to hear. Do you think the same thing about some of the moments in the film that bothered you? Wouldn't mind seeing another one. Just maybe they needed to get their footing and maybe they needed a little practice. Like I said, it felt like some of these scenes could have taken a couple extra takes to nail it, but asking their audience to do a song that has so many words in it to memorize is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. That's my opinion. I'm one guy. I'm not going to make everybody's list and make everybody agree on this movie because it's just not one of those movies. It's too nostalgic, and there's going to be people that are upset about it. So let me know which side of the fence you're on. If you're somewhere down the middle like me, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you guys, and thank you so much for supporting this content on this channel. I will be doing a lot more, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and as always, long live the void.